Welcome again to another edition of My Awesome Empire. This week, our show is all about endurance. First, we meet San Bernardino's William Zeitler, maestro of the glass harmonica, a musical instrument invented in the 1700s by Benjamin Franklin. This incredible instrument is being kept alive by a handful of musicians and Maestro Zeitler, who has written a book on its history and conducted performances with it around the world, including recently at the Kennedy Center. His story, instrument, and music later in our show. 5-year-old Jason describes the real benefits of Redlands. But first, we meet Cliff Graber, owner of the Inland Empire's oldest family business. The Graber family has been growing, packaging, and selling olives and olive products since 1894. In that time, business at the Graber Olive House has grown from local visitors to online sales and distribution around the world. Cal State San Bernardino communications student John Moran sat down with Cliff at his office and asked how this business all began.
Started with my grandfather. He came out from Indiana for his health back in the late 1880s. And he actually started out with real estate. And he had neighbors that were curing olives. A lot of olive trees around. And he got a recipe from them and began doing his own. And he found that he liked letting them ripen on the tree. That's the important difference. Our olives are tree ripened, very tender, and the important difference is that the other olives are, and we're all part of the olive industry, the other method is to pick them green, and then during processing they're oxidized to that black color. And that's how we do them. That's how he started out.
Was Cece your father or grandfather?
Grandfather.
What was it that attracted him to raising the olives?
Once he started doing these recipes, people liked them. And actually he started in a garage, like garage band might get started.
Right.
And he was selling by horse cart, the local grocery stores, fresh olives out of the barrel. And then in the early 1900s, began canning.
Did the business take off right away?
It took off a little bit slow to start with, and then it's been picking up ever since. We started canning, as I say, in the early 1900s, and we've been canning olives ever since. All the different regulations have changed for the good, and we're right up with it.
This is a family business, isn't it? Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Yeah, as I mentioned, my grandfather came out from Indiana in late 1800s, and he had 2 sons, 2 daughters, and my dad and his brother stayed with the business, except my uncle, that would be my uncle, his brother, moved and started another company. And then myself, I was away quite a while, and when I came back in early 1970s, and I got well into the business. Actually, I started running the boiler at age 14, and we've seen the boiler room. Well, right next to it is the shop.
Yes.
So whenever people in that shop would hear any kind of noise coming from the boiler room, they'd think, oh my God, it's a 14-year-old running all that steam stuff.
Right.
And they'd get pretty nervous. Now I have a son. I have a couple of sons, a couple of daughters, but one of my sons, Robert, is working here. And so it's carrying on.
So it's safe to assume then that we do have younger members of the Graber family
We've
still.
got younger members out there, we sure do.
And how about your mom?
Well, my mom, she had a great deal to do with the business. She's still with us. She's 97. Still has input. She owns the business, and she's real sharp. And she and my dad carried the business on many, many years with the approach that we've been discussing. And They were a good team.
So, Cliff, do you foresee Graber Olives going far into the future?
Yes, we're already planning our 200th anniversary.
If you just joined us, you're listening to My Awesome Empire. I'm John Moran, and we're speaking with Cliff Graber of the Graber Olive House in Ontario. Cliff's family knows olives and Inland Empire business better than anyone. They should. They've been in business since 1894, making them the oldest family business in the Inland Empire. So, Cliff, looking at your website, it's easy to see that Graber handles a lot more than olives today. When did your family start bringing in other products?
In the late 60s, mid to late 60s, we built our major gift shop that you saw when you came in. We already had the little small gift shop. In fact, going back in history, my grandmother used to type out orders in the house, the house you see on the corner there.
Yeah.
She used to type the orders there and then ship them from the house. But that was quite a few years ago. So in the mid-60s, we built a larger shop and began adding things that go with olives, like almonds, different candies, just all kinds of fine foods. And about 10 years ago, we started making our own olive oil, meaning we used our olives and sent them to a company that it's just like the old style in Italy. They take people's olives, clear out their machinery, and do your own oil for you. And that's where we are today.
Cliff, in the 1800s, you were selling to those who came to the store here in Ontario. How far do you distribute today, 122 years later?
We distribute now. We have a international customer in Japan, which we've had for years and years, past 20 years.
Yes.
And we have brokers and distributors throughout the country for wholesale. And obviously we've talked about our website where you can get retail. And we also have one of our main customers has been, since they started, Stater Brothers Markets. I think they're in their 80th year, somewhere around there. They've always carried Graber olives and continue to carry Graber olives. So,
Cliff, so many businesses have come and gone since CC started Graber Olives. Why would you say this company has thrived for so long?
Well, because people like our product. That's the one thing. They're very enjoyable. And we are also work very close with our customers. It's the service to our customers that people really talk about. And that's what we've done over the past 115, 120 years.
So when somebody comes in, they're greeted with a friendly face and a smile.
Always friendly, and we take our time with them, no rush, especially when they're filling out their orders for the holidays. And people really enjoy that. They can relax. We have a cup of coffee out front they can get, and it's a good product. That's what counts.
Okay, so Cliff, the Graber Olive House was featured in a special on haunted buildings by the Biography Channel not too long ago. You got to tell us about that.
Well, a few years back, a ghost hunter group, local, Darklands Paranormal, came and requested, could they do a ghost hunt here? And just two of us went along with them. And it was quite interesting. But then they started bringing groups through. It's on a contingency. They have our contingency for ghost hunting. Any groups that want to ghost hunt, they check with them and they take them through. And it's been going quite well. Very popular. People like it.
So what did they find, Cliff? Did they find any ghosts?
Yes, they've had quite a few experiences along with ourselves. I've been tapped on my shoulder in my office. And most anybody who's been here a while can think of something different that seemed a little strange. And that's the experiences that we've had and the hunters have.
Do these appear to be Casper-style friendly ghosts or ghosts of a different nature?
No, they're all friendly. They're very friendly.
Cliff, what is the most important lesson the Graber family has learned about business?
Starting with my grandfather and getting recipes from his friends and recipes that his family really enjoyed. It's all about basically customers are our friends. We strive to get a really top quality tree ripened olive, and then we strive to be friendly to our customers, to give them everything that they need, to have their mail order sent out, carry out their packages for them. Just really good service, the best that we can do. And we always say that we do our best, but then we always think, how can we do better? That's our approach.
You're listening to My Awesome Empire. Up next, William Zeitler of San Bernardino, master of Ben Franklin's glass harmonica. William has performed with it at the Kennedy Center, also in performance with the Blue Man Group, on the History Channel, and in a moment on the My Awesome Empire show. Stay with us.
Would you like to open up your home and share the American culture with an international student? The College of Extended Learning at Cal State San Bernardino is seeking local Inland Empire families to host students for programs ranging from 1 week to 5 months. Welcoming an international visitor into your home is an exciting and rewarding experience. By hosting an international student, you allow them to learn about our country, not only in the classroom, but also through the everyday American traditions at your home. This opportunity provides invaluable education to both host families and students, while creating memories and friendships that will last a lifetime. Homestay families are asked to include students into their normal family activities. If this sounds like something you may be interested in, please apply online at cel.csusb.edu/IEP and click on the Host Families link, or call 909-537-5980. That's 909-537-5980. Help make a difference in an international student's life today.
Welcome back to My Awesome Empire. William Zeitler of San Bernardino is an accomplished author, classical pianist, and composer. But his talents and knowledge of the rare glass harmonica is bringing him notoriety worldwide. Earlier this week, communication student Andy Quintana visited William at his home and asked him when this love for music all began.
I would have been about 5 years old, and for some reason my parents bought a piano, and it just showed up at the house. I went, ooh, that's really cool. So I can still remember having to climb up onto the piano bench because it was so high, and I would just, for hours, try to figure out how to play tunes and things. So they started me on lessons kind of out of self-defense.
Did you grow up in the Inland Empire?
No, I'm a Navy brat. I've lived all over. So all over the United States, at least. Right?
Could you name me some parts that you've been around to?
Hawaii, Norfolk, Virginia, Jacksonville, Florida, Monterey. Did I say Hawaii? Pearl. He was at Pearl for a while. There's a few.
What instrument did you play as a child?
Piano. Started out on the piano.
Who inspired you as a young musician?
So I'm 5. Folks start me on this lovely lady up the street. She was a housewife giving piano lessons, and that got me started on the barest rudiments. And then we moved, a couple more times, and then Dad landed at the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, so he's going to be there a while. And Mom was okay. Time to start you up on piano lessons, and I hadn't had any for during all of the chaos there, all the moves. So she found this fellow named Jack Reynolds in Monterey, who he didn't take didn't take child students, only adults. But Mom came over and talked him into it. Okay, and he just was fabulous, and he ended up being like one of the great mentors for me, not just in music but life in general. And so I started out with the barest rudiments of being able to read, and by the time we moved again, 3 years later, I was playing like the beginning Beethoven piano sonatas and stuff. He was just awesome. He was really awesome, and I kept touch with him, over the years after that.
So when did you first discover the glass harmonica?
So, musician since I was 5, went on, got the degree, all of that stuff. No mention of glass harmonicas in music history or any of that stuff. And then about 15 years ago, I tripped over a CD of music by Mozart and contemporaries for the glass what? And listened to this thing, and this is really awesome. I'm going to do this. So had to build an instrument. It's all custom made because they're not exactly available at Guitar Center. And then I had to figure out how to play it because I couldn't find any teachers either. So it's been quite the journey.
Okay, now when we're talking about glass harmonica, we're not talking harmonica like with an H. We're talking about harmonica with an A. That's a totally different instrument. Is that correct?
It's entirely different instrument. So the glass harmonica without an H was invented by Benjamin Franklin in 1761 when he was in London. And it works on the wet finger around the wine glass idea. So it's rather large. And it became very popular in Franklin's day. Mozart and Beethoven composed music for it. And the better-known mouth organ, the harmonica, was actually invented 60 years later in 1821. And by then, the glass harmonica was kind of disappearing from the musical scene. So I suppose the name was up for grabs.
That's why it's a little bit difficult to see that so commonly around.
Right. Well, they're not very common. There's maybe a half dozen professional players in the world. So it's extremely rare.
Can we actually see it?
Of course. Come follow me.
Wow.
Okay, so this is the wet finger around the wine glass idea. And Franklin's idea was basically to turn all those wine glasses sideways. And you don't need stems, so you can actually nest their bowls nested inside of each other, much like the cereal bowls in the cupboard. So only the rims are exposed, and you touch those rims with wet fingers.
Incredible.
So that was the beginning of the piece that Mozart wrote for the glass harmonica.
Oh, it was incredible. If you just joined us, I'm Andy Quintana. You're listening to My Awesome Empire, and we're speaking with composer, author, and renowned glass harmonica musician, William Zeitler of San Bernardino. How long did it take you to master the harmonica? It must have taken you a lot of time.
Well, after 15 years, I'm still working on that. When do you ever completely master anything?
It seemed like it was flawless. Like it just came naturally to you.
That's what practice will do for you. When I started out, it took a couple weeks just to be able to consistently get a sound out of it at all, which wasn't very pretty, more like tennis shoe on gym floor. So to be able to consistently get a nice sound with all 10 fingers, that took a while.
Where did this instrument come from?
So Benjamin Franklin was in London. He was representing the colonies at the time to Parliament, something about that taxation without representation. And Franklin was a very capable musician. He played a half a dozen musical instruments well enough to amuse himself and friends at parties and things like that. And he attended a concert by a colleague of his in the Royal Academy playing on a set of water-tuned wine glasses, which was kind of a new idea at that point. And Franklin had never seen that done before, loved the sound, and typical Franklin wanted to come up with a better way of doing it. So with the harmonica design, you can play, 5 notes in one hand if you want, which you can't really do with just a goblet style instrument. You do away with the water tuning, which is a pain in the neck, and it's always evaporating, by making the glasses the size you want in the first place to get the notes that you want. And he's able to have, in that case, I have 44 glasses, which if on a goblet style instrument would be really enormous.
How common is this instrument worldwide?
There's maybe a half dozen professional players in the world. I'm the only one in California.
Wow.
And Nevada and Oregon.
It's very fortunate that we're here.
The next nearest one I know of, well, actually there's one in Arizona, and there's one in New York State, and it's a short list.
Wow. Mr. Zeitler, you're an accomplished composer and author as well. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
So in addition to playing the glass harmonica, I also do film scores for like documentaries and educational films. I've got one to finish this week for the Paris Observatory. So it's kind of fun. The main producer that I've been working with is in Portugal, and we've been doing it all over the internet. And we've done a dozen of these films now, and I have yet to do one in English. They've all been in like Portuguese and Dutch and one thing or another, which is kind of fun.
What has been the most important performance of your career so far?
Well, that would probably have to be the playing at the Kennedy Center. So there's an opera called Lucia de Lammermoor, and in the last act, Lucia goes mad, and towards the end of the heyday of the glass harmonica, such as it was associated with madness. And so Donizetti scores this 15-minute duet with glass harmonica and the lead soprano. It's a big part, so I played that there.
What was your first impression of playing there, of the Kennedy Center?
Oh, it just scares the you-know-what out of you. It's like, what am I doing here? Eek. But it went fine. And then another, probably almost as a little more fun, but interesting, was playing with the Blue Man Group at the Hollywood Bowl.
Oh.
Well, I guess it was last November. So, yeah, they had that concert there. So that was 30,000 people. That's the biggest crowd I've played for live. So that was fun. And plus, it's just, they're really crazy and they're super professional. It was a really fun gig.
You also perform once a week for a lucky group of locals as well, don't you?
Yes, I'm the organist at the San Bernardino First Presbyterian Church, and they have a nice 7-foot grand piano and a nice pipe organ, and I have way too much fun exploring what the possibilities of those are.
You've authored some work, haven't you?
I just last year released what is the first book-length history of the glass harmonica, the result of 14 years of research, digging up primary sources, mostly in Germany. They embrace the glass harmonica like nowhere else. And so just tracking this stuff down and translating it for the first time into English, and the story was really wonderful. So the book ends up, I called it The Glass Harmonica, the Music and the Madness. So it talks about that whole fun thread. So that was 14 years of work. Wow. Assembling what is the first real story of the 30-page bibliography, on and on. So that was quite the project.
What is it that you love about this instrument so much that you've dedicated your life to practicing it and playing it? What is it that
and researching it
and making a book that with 14 years of research and performances? What is it that you love about this instrument that makes it so special, that makes it so unique?
Well, for openers, it's just a spectacular example of imaginative genius at work. I mean, you could play with the wine glasses in your dining room, and then to make the cognitive leap like Franklin did to that, it's hard to find better examples of pure genius at work that are so easy for the rest of us mere mortals to understand. But I also think that it represents, you know, when you go through the whole music education thing, it's like, okay, we've got the little catalog of instruments and like the world is all figured out and we've got the little categories. Like, here's an example. I get asked all the time, is this a wind or a string or a percussion or a brass instrument? Well, it's not any of those. So the fact that it falls outside of the categories, and I just feel that, like, in life in general, all the problems we're facing in the world and so forth, this idea of opening the aperture of our imagination in general is just something we've really got to do. And this is a fun way to do that. And it's certainly opened up opportunities. Like, I never would have played at the Kennedy Center just being a pianist or an organist or something like that. But the glass harmonica has, or with the Blue Man Group, it's opened up all sorts of doors. And the researching the book has just taken me down all sorts of amazing adventures in history and all that I never would have any other way.
William Zeitler performing on Ben Franklin's glass harmonica. If you'd like more information on William Zeitler or the glass harmonica, check out his website, William Zeitler, spelled Zeitler, williamzeitler.com. Stay with us. More of My Awesome Empire in just a moment.
Start college as a student. Start growing as a leader. Start your career as an officer. Start strong. When you register to take Army ROTC course electives, you'll be on the path to leadership. You'll also learn lessons that go beyond the classroom. And as an Army ROTC cadet, you may be eligible for full tuition scholarship and a monthly allowance of up to $500. When you graduate and complete Army ROTC, you will leave ready to lead as an officer in the U.S. Army, Army Reserve, or Army National Guard. To find out more, visit your Army ROTC representative. Contact Army ROTC San Bernardino at 909-537-5533 or visit armyrotc.csusb.edu for more information. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong, paid for by the United States Army.
As we close our program today, we remind you to write and let us know the great people and businesses that you love in the Inland Empire. We'll have the address for you in just a bit. But first, we introduce you to 5-year-old Jason, who explains for us the highlights of his hometown, Redlands.
My name is Jason. I'm 5 years old. I live in Redlands. I like Redlands a lot. I like my school. It's called Valley Prep. Ms. Foriano is my teacher. She's nice. I like to play Pet Store. I play that at school, and it's super fun. My parents take me to get ice cream in Redlands sometime, and that's awesome. These are the reasons why I love Redlands.
Thanks for joining us today for another edition of My Awesome Empire. We're always looking for stories of great, innovative businesses, programs, and heroes right here in our Inland Empire. If you know someone who'd be a great guest on the show, write to us, myawesomeempire@csusb.edu. We'll be back again next week at this time with more great people who are making the Inland Empire a better place to live and to do business. This program is produced by students on the campus of California State University, San Bernardino. Thanks to student producer co-hosts John Moran and Andy Quintana, to student engineers Daniel Cruz and Arnold Robles, and chief production engineer Donaldo Nunez. My Awesome Empire is a production of the Creative Media Services Department of Cal State San Bernardino. Until next time, I'm Lacey Kendall. Have an awesome week.